My name is Andreas Laner and I work for the Medical Genetics Center in Munich. We have a big human genetic practice with more than 15 physicians and molecular biologists, and we make all kinds of genetic diagnostic in Germany. So I will start with a short prelude, speaking about variant classification in general and the ACMG AMP classification system in general. And then I will walk you through a case, one of many, where we used Mastermind to gather ACMG relevant information and where we were able to solve the case in a short time. So when I teach about variant interpretation, this is usually my entry slide, which transports only one important message. So it's my first rule in variant interpretation, and it says that you should refrain from uncritically adopt gradings or classifications from any database or the literature without checking the underlying evidence. So you might ask where the relevant evidence comes from, and this is exactly where the cornerstone publication from Richards et al. Comes into play. So in this paper from 2050, the ACMG AMP guidelines were published. And as you can see in this table, the ACMGs contain 28 evidence codes sorted according to evidence strength from far left, very strong benign, to far right, very strong pathogenic. And they are grouped into different evidence categories like computational data, functional data, or de novo data. And they also come with a table where you can count the evidence codes and calculate a final classification. So in this graphic, I aimed to see these evidence codes from a molecular biologist's point of view and try to display the sources where the evidence comes from. So to say where to look for the evidence. And well, it will probably not surprise you to learn that you can extract almost, if not all, ACMG relevant information from the literature. So eventually, information from the literature ends up in databases, but the literature is always the primary source of evidence. And it's obvious that a thorough literature curation is the core of a robust and consistent variant interpretation process. But unfortunately, it is also the most time-consuming part. And compared to other parts of modern high-throughput NGS diagnostics, it is not yet scalable. So this is where my prelude ends and the main theme starts, namely how we use Mastermind to speed up the variant interpretation process from here to there. So I will show you in this slide a typical case we had in our lab, and so after a few variant filtering steps, I ended up with one clear-cut pathogenic variant in the ABCA4 gene. This is a splice variant, and I think we all agree that this is can be classified as a class 4 here. And so in this case, the mode of inheritance is autosomal recessive, and I was looking for a possible second pathogenic variant in this gene. So the gene fits very well to my phenotype of the patient, but this is not of concern here. And what you may notice and what I marked here is that I found another missense variant in this gene. And this is the starting point of my case here today. So in our variant interpretation tool, we already have the Mastermind link included. And but you may have noticed that we also have information about ClinVar, and it says that it's pathogenic in ClinVar. But if you remember my first rule in variant interpretation, you should not take this as evidence, but look for the underlying evidence instead. So what will happen when I click on this link to Mastermind? I will be navigated to the Mastermind homepage. And here the variant details are already in the search tab line. And it shows me that I have almost 60 articles with this gene and this variant. So this is way too much, and I don't want to read all of these. So and this is what I like Mastermind very much. You can ask the program the right questions and we get the relevant answers. So Mastermind is much more than just a variant search tool. So in my setting, I have 3 questions in mind. You remember that this is an autosomal recessive mode of inheritance here. So my first question would be, is my variant, has this been detected in compound heterozygous state with another pathogenic variant? Another question could be, are there functional studies? So I can invoke the criteria PS3. Or a third question, maybe, do we have case control data? So is the prevalence in affected increased over controls, which would be the criteria PS4. And I show you how I do this. At first, I navigate to the filter categories and then navigate to the ACMG interpretation bar. And so my first question I want to answer is, are there functional studies? So I click here on functional, go to in vitro, and invoke this filter for functional studies. And I can see here on the number what will expect me if I hit this submit button. I will have 9 papers with this search terms. And this is how the search then looks like. In this, I will not go into detail about what the windows you see here. I think this will be explained in other presentations. But in this publication history chart, the big dot here represents the first paper here in this table. And by clicking on it, I will have this Windows opens and I see my search terms highlighted, so functional studies and the variant I was looking for. So this does not mean that I can now at this point take the criteria PS3 for certain. I still have to get the relevant information out of the paper, but the search time is extremely reduced here. So alternatively, I can ask the second question: has my variant been detected in compound heterozygous state in an affected individual? So this would be criterion PM3. For this, I would look in the part inheritance pattern, zygosity, and then compound heterozygosity. And if I submit with the new filters, then the publication history window changes, and also the papers here on top of the list. And if I click on this, then I can find just in the highlighted text that my variant has been found in a compound heterozygous state with another variant and so on. Again, I have to check the literature, but this is a nice shortcut. So what about the last question, the case control data? For this question, I would check this pedigree and case studies, go to cases and case control, and I will have 2 papers. And these are the papers. When I click on the first one, it says that my variant here was actually found to be the 3rd most prevalent disease variant in this study. And so, again, I have to check the literature again, but I think this would be valid to check the point PS4. So this was a short and quick overview of how we use Mastermind to get the relevant information. And yeah, as I said, we are now roughly 15 molecular biologists, and we are all familiar with the system, and I must say it speeded up the process a lot and helped us a lot. Okay, now I'm the end, and if you ever come to Munich and you would like to see me, then you have to locate here. Well, not in the church, but our lab is right behind the church, and you have a high probability to find me there. And if I'm not there, then you might have clues where to look instead. Okay, thank you.